Close your eyes for a second. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, and the person staring back isn't your reflection, it's your enemy. It whispers in your voice. It knows your fears. It reminds you of everything you've failed at, everything you're not, and everything you'll never become. That voice, that's not life holding you back. That's you. Every single day, millions of people lose a battle no one else can see, a battle fought in silence, inside their own heads. They wake up with dreams, with ambition, with plans. And before they even take their first step, that inner voice says, "Don't bother. You're not good enough. You'll screw it up again." You know that voice, don't you? The one that talks you out of opportunities before you even try. The one that makes you overthink, hesitate, doubt, and shrink. It's sneaky. It sounds reasonable, even protective. But let's call it what it really is. A liar. A thief. A killer of dreams. Negative thinking doesn't walk into your life like a storm. It creeps in like fog. You don't even notice it at first. It hides inside small words. I can't. I shouldn't. Maybe later. And then one day you wake up and realize your potential has been quietly suffocated. You've become a prisoner of your own thoughts. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. The enemy you're fighting isn't the world. It's not your past. It's not even your circumstances. The enemy is the story you keep telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. So the question is, when will you stop listening to that voice? When will you stop letting your mind bully your soul? Because the only way forward, the only way to win is to kill it. Not ignore it, not silence it temporarily. Kill it. Kill your negative thinking before it kills your future. And if that sounds dramatic, good, because it is. You've got one life, one shot, one chance to see how far you can really go. And the only thing standing in your way lives inside your own head. Are you ready to go to war with it? Negative thinking is a parasite of the mind. It's not always loud. It doesn't always scream. It doesn't need to. It survives by whispering, by slipping between your thoughts, feeding off your fears, and disguising itself as logic. It's clever. It knows how to sound reasonable, even helpful. It says things like, "I'm just being realistic," or "I don't want to get my hopes up." And that's how it wins, not through chaos, but through subtlety. The first thing you need to understand is that negative thinking isn't random. It's not some mysterious curse that only you struggle with. It's your brain's primitive defense mechanism, the part that evolved to protect you from danger, rejection, or pain. Thousands of years ago, that voice was useful. It warned our ancestors not to walk into a dark cave or approach a wild animal. It was designed to help us survive. But the problem is, you're not fighting saber-toothed tigers anymore. You're fighting your own potential. You're fighting fear, dressed as logic. Your brain still thinks every risk means death, every failure means exile, every judgment means danger. That's why it tries to keep you comfortable, to keep you safe. But comfort isn't safety, it's stagnation. And if you're not careful, your mind will build a cage, so subtle, you'll decorate it and call it home. You'll tell yourself you're just being careful, that you're not ready yet, that you're waiting for the right time, when really you're just obeying the parasite. Negative thinking starts small. It starts as a single doubt. What if I fail? That one thought, if left unchecked, breeds another. Maybe I'm not good enough. Then another, why even try? Before long, those thoughts link together like chains, and suddenly you're no longer steering your life. Your fear is, that's how this parasite operates. It feeds on hesitation. Every time you delay, every time you avoid, every time you tell yourself later, it grows stronger. The most dangerous thing about it is that it sounds like you. That's why it's so hard to fight. It borrows your voice, your tone, your logic. It knows exactly how to talk you down because it's built from your own experiences. It remembers every rejection, every humiliation, every time you were told you weren't enough. And it uses them as ammunition. You think it's the truth, but it's not. It's just a pattern your brain repeats because it's easier than changing. Change requires energy, belief, courage. Your brain hates that. It wants the predictable, the familiar, even if the familiar is misery. That's why so many people live in cycles of self-sabotage. They don't want to be negative. They just don't recognize the enemy. They've mistaken a parasite for a protector. Think about how many dreams have died, not because someone wasn't capable, but because they believed they weren't. The world is full of people who gave up before they even started, not because life beat them, but because their mind convinced them they were already defeated. Every time you say, "I can't," without trying, you've let the parasite win. Every time you talk yourself out of something because you might fail, you've handed over your power. You've surrendered your destiny to a thought. Here's the truth. Negative thinking doesn't care about your happiness. It only cares about your comfort. It will convince you to stay small, to avoid risk, to play safe, all under the illusion of being smart. It will tell you that it's protecting you from disappointment, but really it's protecting you from growth. And growth is the only thing that makes life meaningful. The human mind has roughly 60,000 thoughts a day. Scientists estimate that around 80% of them are negative and repetitive. That means most people are living inside a loop, a constant replay of fear, doubt, and insecurity. And if you don't interrupt that loop, it becomes your identity. You stop having negative thoughts and start being a negative thinker. You start seeing the world through that lens, finding proof that supports your own limitations. Ever notice how when you're in a bad mood, everything seems worse? That's not coincidence. That's your brain filtering reality to match your internal state. If you tell yourself the world is against you, your brain will find reasons to prove it. It's not magic, it's neuroscience. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information, highlights what aligns with your beliefs. So if you believe you're unlucky, unworthy, or not enough, your brain will keep showing you evidence that you're right. That's how powerful your thinking is. It literally shapes your perception of reality. Negative thinking also thrives on comparison. It wants you to measure your journey by someone else's timeline. It tells you you're behind, that you're too old, too young, too late. It feeds off insecurity, scrolling, validation seeking. The more attention you give it, the stronger it grows. And before long, you're not even living your life. You're performing it, chasing approval, constantly feeling less than. That's how the parasite keeps you trapped. But here's the turning point. Parasites can only live off what you feed them. Starve them, and they die. Negative thinking needs your energy, your attention, your participation. It needs you to argue with it, to fear it, to believe it. Once you start observing it instead of obeying it, it loses its grip. The moment you say, "That's not me, that's just a thought," you begin to reclaim control. Your thoughts are not facts. They're habits. And like any habit, they can be unlearned, replaced, rewired. But first, you have to see them for what they are. Mental parasites that have overstayed their welcome. The next time your mind tells you you're not enough, don't debate it. Don't justify it. Don't explain it. Call it out. Catch it in the act. That single act of awareness, that moment when you realize you're under attack, is the first step to freedom. Because once you can see the parasite, you can kill it. It won't happen overnight. It's a battle fought every day in your thoughts, your self-talk, your reactions. But every time you push back, every time you choose courage over comfort, you weaken it. You strip away its power. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that the voice that once controlled you is now silent. Not because it's gone, but because you've stopped listening. That's when you'll understand what real freedom feels like. Not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Because when you control your thoughts, you control your life. And when you control your life, there's nothing left that can stop you. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. You are the problem. Not your boss, not your parents, not your childhood, not your circumstances. You, the person staring back in the mirror, the one with the excuses, the one waiting for motivation, the one hoping someone else will fix the pain, clear the path, or give permission to start. It's not the world that keeps you stuck. It's you. That's a hard truth, but it's the only one that will set you free. Because the moment you realize that you are the source of your problems, you also realize that you are the solution. You hold both the poison and the antidote. The question is, which one will you feed? Most people spend their lives outsourcing blame. They point fingers at everything except the one place it belongs, inward. My job is toxic. No one supports me. I didn't get lucky. I'm just not that kind of person. That's how the cycle continues. Because as long as you blame, you give away power. You make yourself a victim in your own story. And victims don't grow. They wait. They hope. They wish. But they don't change. You've got to understand something about the mind. It loves excuses. Excuses protect the ego. They let you stay comfortable while pretending to care about progress. When you tell yourself, I can't, because your brain relaxes. It doesn't have to work. It doesn't have to take risks. It can keep doing what it's always done. That's why self-pity feels so seductive. It feels like relief. But it's not relief. It's surrender. If you ever want to kill negative thinking, you have to stop feeding it with stories that make you powerless. Because that's all those stories are, narratives you've chosen to believe. You've replayed them so many times that they've become part of your identity. I'm just not confident. I always mess things up. Nothing ever works out for me. These aren't facts, they're scripts. Scripts written by your past and rehearsed by your mind. And here's the brutal truth. As long as you keep reading from that script, your life will never change. You'll keep reliving the same patterns, the same disappointments, the same outcomes, not because life is unfair, but because you're using the same thinking that created them. At some point, you have to stop being loyal to your pain. Stop defending your limitations as if they're part of who you are. You're not broken, you're conditioned to doubt yourself, conditioned to seek validation, conditioned to believe you need to feel ready before you act. And that conditioning won't go away until you make a decision, a real one, to take ownership of your life. Ownership means no more excuses, no more waiting for the right time, no more blaming the world. Ownership means looking at every part of your life, the good, the bad, the wasted time, the failed attempts, and saying, that's on me, not as self-punishment, but as self-empowerment. Because if it's on you, then you can change it. If you created the mess, you can clean it. If you built the cage, you can break it. When you take responsibility, something powerful happens. Your brain shifts from helpless to capable. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what can I do about it? That single change in language changes your life. Because when you stop seeing yourself as a victim, you stop acting like one. You stop waiting to be rescued and start rescuing yourself. But let's be honest, taking responsibility hurts. It strips away all your justifications. It leaves you exposed. You can't hide behind bad luck or unfair circumstances anymore. You have to face the part of you that settled, procrastinated, avoided, lied to yourself. And that confrontation can feel brutal. It's supposed to. Growth always feels like destruction at first. You have to burn down the lies before you can rebuild with truth. The moment you stop blaming and start owning, your negative thinking begins to lose power. Because negativity thrives on helplessness. It needs you to believe that life is happening to you. The second you realize life is happening through you, that you are an active participant, not a passive victim, everything changes. You start to see problems differently. They stop being obstacles and start being opportunities for self-mastery. When you take ownership, failure stops being personal. It becomes feedback. Pain stops being punishment. It becomes a teacher. You stop saying, why me? And start saying, try me. That's the shift. That's what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. The world doesn't change. You do. Look around you. The strongest people you know aren't the ones who had perfect lives. They're the ones who faced the hardest truths and refused to stay down. They stopped negotiating with their excuses. They stopped seeking sympathy and started building strength. They didn't wait for confidence. They built it through action. You can do the same. You don't need permission. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop waiting for your mind to feel ready. Because it won't. The mind doesn't like change. It likes comfort. It likes routine. So stop asking your feelings for directions. They'll always send you back to safety. Start acting like the person you want to become before you believe it. That's how you break the loop. That's how you rewire your brain. Because your mind learns from evidence. Every time you show up, every time you follow through, every time you push through fear, you're proving to yourself that you're not the same person who once doubted. That's how self-trust is built. Not from talking, but from doing. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not your family, not a miracle. You are your own rescue mission. The moment you understand that, you stop wasting time waiting for external change and start focusing on internal power. You stop wishing for an easier life and start building a stronger mind. That's what it means to face the brutal truth. It means looking yourself in the eye and admitting, I've been in my own way. I've let fear make decisions for me. I've chosen comfort over courage. And then saying, no more. Because once you see that you've been the problem, you realize something incredible. You've also been the answer all along. Everything you need is already within you. The discipline, the courage, the resilience, the potential. You just buried it under years of excuses, fear and self-doubt. Peel that away and you'll see that you've been powerful the whole time. You just forgot. So stop looking for someone else to unlock your greatness. Stop waiting for signs. You are the sign. You are the key. You are the lock. It's all you. Always has been. Always will be. Because the moment you stop running from yourself, the moment you take full responsibility, that's the moment you stop being at war with your own mind. That's when you stop surviving and start living. That's when you stop reacting and start leading. And that's how you kill negative thinking. Not by wishing it away, but by facing the truth, owning your power, and choosing every single day to be your own solution. The battle you're fighting isn't outside of you. It's happening in the space between your ears. The mind is a battlefield, and your inner dialogue is the weapon that decides whether you win or lose. You talk to yourself all day long, more than anyone else ever will. The question is, what are you saying? Because those words, those silent whispers you repeat, are programming your future. Every thought you have is like a seed. Plant enough of them, and they grow roots. The problem is that most people are watering weeds. They feed their mind with self-doubt, replaying old failures, obsessing over what could go wrong. They talk themselves out of opportunities before they even begin. Then they wonder why nothing changes. You can't build a positive life with negative words. You can't have a strong mind with a weak inner voice. What you say to yourself in silence matters more than what you say out loud. When you wake up and your mind starts speaking before you do, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, this won't work, that's your moment of truth. That's where the rewiring begins. You can't control every thought that shows up, but you can control which ones you engage with. You can decide which thoughts get to stay and which ones get evicted. That's mental discipline. Rewiring your mind doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means refusing to let negativity become your default. It means catching yourself in the act, hearing the old patterns start to play, and saying, no, not this time. At first, it feels impossible. Those thoughts are fast, automatic, convincing. They've been running unchecked for years. But awareness is the first crack in the armor. Once you see the thought, it loses power. Imagine your mind as a room filled with voices. Some are encouraging, others are destructive. For most people, the negative ones are the loudest because they've been given the most attention. Every time you repeat a negative story, every time you say, I can't or I'm not enough, you're turning up the volume on that voice. The more you listen, the stronger it gets. Rewiring means doing the opposite. It means turning down the noise of self-doubt and amplifying the voice of strength. You do that through repetition, not motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It's a spark. It gets you started, but discipline is what rewires the mind. Discipline means talking back to your thoughts, even when you don't feel like it. It means replacing, I can't do this with I'll find a way. Replacing I'm not ready with I'll learn as I go. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about shifting focus, because your brain follows direction. It believes what you tell it most often. When you constantly feed it self-doubt, it becomes efficient at finding reasons to doubt you. When you feed it confidence, it becomes efficient at finding solutions. That's how neural pathways work. Your thoughts are like trails in a forest. The more you walk one, the clearer and easier it becomes. The ones you stop walking eventually fade. If you keep walking the path of fear, that's the road your mind knows best. But if you start walking the path of strength, even awkwardly, even slowly, that's the one that begins to form. Rewiring your mind also means paying attention to your environment. Your thoughts don't live in isolation. They're influenced by what you consume, the people you spend time with, the content you scroll through, the conversations you engage in. You can't reprogram your mind if you're surrounded by negativity. You can't think like a champion if you're feeding on complaints and gossip. The voices around you will eventually become the voices inside you. Guard your mental diet the same way you'd guard your physical health. There's another truth people overlook. Your body and your mind are not separate. The way you use your body influences your thoughts. Stand tall, breathe deeply, move with purpose, and your mind will follow. Slouch, breathe shallowly, and speak softly, and your brain receives the signal that you're small, weak, unsure. That's not motivation talk. That's biology. Your posture and breathing send direct messages to your nervous system. You can literally interrupt a negative thought by changing your physical state. That's why action is so powerful. You can't overthink when you're in motion. The most effective way to rewire your inner dialogue is through evidence. You don't need to convince yourself with empty affirmations. You need proof. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you're sending your brain evidence that you can be trusted. That's how you rebuild confidence. One promise, one action, one win at a time. Self-trust is the foundation of a strong mind. Without it, you'll always be at war with yourself. And here's the truth. Your thoughts will still try to fight you. They won't disappear overnight. They'll come back with the same old script. You'll mess this up. You're not good enough, this won't last. But now you'll recognize them. You'll hear them and say, I've heard this before, and I'm still standing. That's the shift from reaction to command. You're no longer the passenger, you're the driver. The goal isn't to eliminate negative thoughts, it's to stop giving them authority. You can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest there. That's how you control your inner dialogue. You let the thought come and you let it go. You don't give it a home. At some point you have to decide which voice you're going to believe. The one that says you can or the one that says you can't. Both exist inside you. Both are waiting for your attention. The one you feed becomes your truth. So start feeding the voice that pushes you forward. Speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. You wouldn't let your best friend talk to themselves the way you talk to you. So why do you allow it? Every time you catch yourself slipping into old patterns, pause, breathe, reframe. Instead of this is too hard, say this is my training. Instead of I'm failing, say I'm learning. Instead of I can't do this, say I'm becoming the kind of person who can. Words matter. They're not magic, they're commands. Your subconscious listens. Your body obeys. It takes time, consistency, and patience. You're rewiring years of mental conditioning. You're breaking habits that have lived in your mind for decades. But every thought you correct, every time you challenge that inner voice, you're building new wiring. Stronger, sharper, more resilient. One day you'll catch yourself reacting differently. You'll face a challenge that would have once crushed you, and instead you'll stay calm, focused, steady. That's when you'll realize you're not thinking the same anymore. You've taken back control. Because in the end, this isn't just about positive thinking. It's about power thinking. It's about training your mind to work for you instead of against you. The voice in your head will always talk, Make sure it speaks in your favor. Make sure it reminds you of your strength, not your weakness. Make sure it builds you instead of breaking you. That's how you rewire your mind. Not with magic, not with luck, with awareness, repetition, and choice. You catch the thought, you question it, you replace it, again and again and again, until one day, that's just who you are. Someone who commands their mind instead of being controlled by it. And when you reach that point, when your inner dialogue becomes your greatest ally, nothing and no one can stop you. Because the world outside can't break a person who has mastered the world within. Life doesn't reward emotion, it rewards execution. You can feel inspired, angry, excited, or afraid, but none of that changes anything unless you act. The people who build extraordinary lives aren't the ones who always feel ready or confident. They're the ones who move anyway. They've learned to do what needs to be done, not what feels good in the moment. That's what separates those who win from those who wish. Discipline over emotion. Your emotions are like weather. They change, they shift, they come and go. You can't build your life around something that's unstable. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll never get far because feelings are inconsistent. One day you'll wake up motivated. The next day you'll want to hide. One day you'll believe in yourself. The next day your doubts will be louder. The warrior mindset isn't about ignoring emotion. It's about mastering it. It's about standing firm, even when the storm hits. Discipline is what you do when the motivation fades. It's the thing that carries you when your emotions try to drag you down. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire you keep alive. And here's the truth, discipline isn't glamorous. It's not about hype videos, perfect routines, or morning mantras. It's about showing up when no one's watching. It's about doing the hard things on the days you least want to. It's about doing the reps, taking the steps, saying no when you'd rather say later. When you build discipline, you're training your mind to obey you, not your mood. You're telling your emotions, I run this. That's what a warrior does. A warrior doesn't wait for courage, they act, and courage follows. A warrior doesn't negotiate with laziness, fear, or doubt. They give commands and follow through. Every time you act in spite of how you feel, you're strengthening that muscle. You're teaching your brain that your word means something. That's where power comes from, not emotion, but consistency. Think about the strongest people you know, not physically, but mentally. They don't live easy lives. They've just learned that comfort is overrated. They don't chase what feels good. They chase what makes them stronger. They know discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. Because when you're disciplined, you're not a slave to your impulses. You don't have to wait for the right mood. You do what's required and you move forward. That's real control. When you wake up and your mind starts arguing, 5 more minutes, I'll do it later, it's not a big deal. That's your battleground. That's where the war is fought. You can talk about goals, success, and mindset all day, but if you can't win that battle, you'll never change. The difference between success and mediocrity often comes down to one thing. Who can push through the noise of emotion and stay disciplined anyway? Discipline doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you had a bad day. It doesn't care if life isn't fair. Discipline says, do it anyway, because that's what growth demands. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your self-respect. Every time you let yourself off the hook, you weaken it. People talk about confidence like it's something you find. It's not. Confidence is built through discipline. When you do hard things repeatedly, you start to believe in your ability to handle anything. That belief becomes unshakable. The warrior mindset isn't about aggression. It's about focus. It's about clarity of purpose. A warrior doesn't waste time on excuses, gossip, or distractions. They conserve their energy for what matters. They know that emotion is energy, and they use it wisely. Anger becomes fuel. Fear becomes awareness. Pain becomes instruction. Every emotion is raw material. Discipline is the tool that shapes it into power. You're gonna have days when you feel broken. Days when nothing seems to work. When your motivation disappears. When your mind screams, what's the point? Those are the days that define you. Anybody can show up when it's easy. It's what you do